He had built an empire that the world admired, yet his own home felt colder than any empty office. Every room echoed with silence, every success felt hollow. He believed providing luxury was enough. He believed time would heal everything. But one afternoon, a single moment by the pool shattered every excuse he had been hiding behind. A laugh he had not heard in years filled the air, pure and alive. Then suddenly it vanished. What he saw in his son's eyes was not anger, not disobedience, but fear. That fear pierced deeper than any loss he had ever known. In that instant, a powerful man realized his greatest failure was not business or wealth, but love delayed too long. This is a story of awakening, pain, courage, and a second chance that arrives when it feels almost too late. Listen carefully because this story may change the way you see family forever. The house stood tall and flawless, yet inside it felt hollow, like a place where warmth had slowly forgotten the way back. Every window reflected success, every room carried silence. The man who owned it believed he had done everything right. He provided the best schools, the safest walls, the finest comforts money could buy. Still, something invisible had slipped through his hands. His mornings began early and ended late. Meetings replaced meals. Numbers replaced conversations. The echo of his footsteps across polished floors followed him like a reminder he chose not to hear. Since the loss of his wife, he convinced himself that strength meant distance, that holding his son too close might reopen wounds that never truly closed. Grief, he told himself, would fade if ignored long enough. But the child noticed everything. Lucas learned how to stay quiet in a loud house. He learned how to smile without sound, how to keep his thoughts hidden, how to disappear into corners where memories felt safer. He watched the doors, listened for familiar footsteps, and pretended to sleep when the man he once ran toward finally came home. No one taught him this. Pain became his teacher. The afternoons were the hardest. Sunlight poured into the backyard, touching the pool that rarely felt alive anymore. The water remained still, untouched, like it was waiting for permission to breathe again. That day felt no different. Or so it seemed. What the father did not know was that somewhere behind those quiet walls, something fragile had begun to change. A small moment was forming, gentle and unplanned. A moment that would soon pull him out of his controlled world and force him to face the truth he had been avoiding. Because sometimes the loudest wake-up calls arrive wrapped in silence. The backyard was unusually quiet that afternoon, the kind of silence that feels heavier than noise. Sunlight stretched across the water, turning the pool into a sheet of blue glass. As he stepped outside, his mind was elsewhere, trapped in unfinished thoughts and responsibilities that never seemed to end. He did not expect anything out of the ordinary. That belief lasted only seconds. A soft sound reached him. Not a voice, not a call. A laugh. He froze. The sound was light, unguarded, and impossibly familiar. It cut through the air and struck something deep inside him. His heart tightened as he slowly turned toward the pool. What he saw made his breath catch in his throat. In the water, his son clung to someone, small arms wrapped tight, body relaxed in a way he had not seen in far too long. The child's face glowed with joy, eyes bright, smile wide and real. It was not forced. It was not careful. It was the laughter of a child who felt safe. The woman holding him moved gently, guiding him through the water as if protecting something priceless. Her presence was calm, steady, unafraid. Water rippled around them, each movement quiet and natural, as though the moment had been happening long before anyone noticed. He stood rooted in place, unsure whether to step forward or stay hidden. His mind raced with questions he was not ready to ask. Why was his son here? Why had he never seen this smile before? Why did it feel like he was watching a life that continued without him? Then his foot brushed against something dry. A sharp sound snapped through the air. Everything changed in an instant. The laughter vanished as if it had never existed. The boy's body stiffened, his arms loosening their hold as he slowly turned toward the sound. His eyes met his father's, and in that fragile moment, something painful unfolded. The joy drained from his face, replaced by a look far too heavy for a child his age. His shoulders curled inward, his smile collapsing into uncertainty, then fear. The woman in the water noticed it instantly. Her calm shattered. She released the child with trembling hands and took a small step back, as if distance could protect her from what she believed was coming. Her eyes widened, not in defiance but in apology. She said nothing. She did not need to. Her silence spoke louder than words. The boy moved quickly toward the pool's edge, climbing out with clumsy urgency. Water streamed from his hair and clothes, forming small puddles at his feet. He stood there, caught between two worlds, breathing too fast, eyes darting, unsure where he belonged. The float rings around his arms now looked out of place, like remnants of happiness he was not allowed to keep. Time stretched unbearably. The air felt thick, every sound magnified. The father saw details he had missed before. How thin his son had become. How carefully he watched every expression. How his body flinched before any words were spoken. For the first time, a terrifying thought took shape. This was not fear of discipline. This was fear of presence. Fear that joy was temporary and would always be taken away. The realization struck deeper than anger ever could. Silence settled between them, heavy and unforgiving. He wanted to speak, yet every word felt dangerous, as if one wrong sound might break what little remained. His son stood trembling, eyes fixed on the ground, waiting for a reaction he had learned to fear. Slowly, the father gestured toward the house. The boy hesitated, glancing back with uncertainty, then obeyed, footsteps light and rushed as he disappeared inside. Only then did the man turn his attention to the woman still in the pool. She remained motionless, fingers gripping the edge, knuckles pale. Her face carried the quiet panic of someone who expected blame before understanding. When he finally spoke, his voice sounded distant even to himself. He asked how often this had happened. Her answer came quickly, almost desperately. She explained the heat, the empty afternoons, the child who wandered downstairs searching for something to feel. She spoke of small requests, of fear to refuse, of trying only to keep him safe. With every sentence, her voice softened, not with excuses but concern. Then the words changed. She spoke of nights filled with muffled sobs, of a child calling for someone who never answered. She described meals left untouched, toys abandoned, and quiet corners where grief hid. She confessed how the boy talked when he believed no one was listening, how he spoke of missing a voice that grew fainter in his memory. The man felt his chest tighten. Each detail peeled away another layer of denial. This was not misbehavior. This was loneliness. And for the first time, he understood that the silence in his home had been hurting more than it protected. The truth settled slowly like a weight pressing against his chest. He lowered himself to the edge of the pool, letting the cold water touch his shoes, uncaring of the suit he once guarded so carefully. Wealth had always given him control, but in this moment, it offered nothing. He listened, not as a man in charge, but as a father hearing what he should have known long ago. She spoke carefully now, choosing each word as if it mattered deeply. She told him how the boy waited by the stairs in the evenings, listening for footsteps, only to retreat when the door finally opened. How he pretended to sleep, afraid that waking would invite disappointment. How he believed love had limits, and that he himself might be the reason someone left. Those words broke something inside him. He pressed his hands together, staring at the rippling water, seeing memories instead of reflections. A smaller house. A softer life. A child once lifted high, laughter echoing freely. He realized how often grief had turned him distant, how silence had replaced comfort, how absence had become routine. When he finally looked up, his eyes were wet, unguarded. He asked a question he had avoided for months. Whether his son still believed he was loved. Her answer was gentle but honest. She said the boy hoped for it every day, even when he doubted it at night. In that moment, the man understood that success meant nothing if his child felt unseen. And for the first time he felt ready to face the pain he had been running from. That evening the house felt different. Not brighter, not louder, but softer, as if it were finally breathing again. The man found his son sitting on the edge of the bed, knees pulled close, eyes fixed on nothing in particular. For a moment he simply stood there, unsure how to cross the distance he himself had created. Then he did something he had not done in a long time. He sat beside him. No speeches. No explanations. Just presence. The boy tensed at first, waiting for words that never came. Instead, an arm wrapped around his shoulders, hesitant but real. The child's breath hitched, then slowly eased. Tears came quietly, not from fear this time, but release. The man held him, realizing that healing did not begin with fixing everything, but with staying. Days passed and small changes followed. Meals were shared. Laughter returned in pieces. The pool filled with sound again, not watched from a distance but joined. The woman remained, not as a secret comfort, but as part of a home learning how to care again. One afternoon, the boy ran ahead, splashing water, turning back with a smile that did not disappear when eyes met. That smile stayed. The man felt something he had not felt since loss first entered his life. Hope without fear. He finally understood that love grows strongest when it is shown, not assumed. And in choosing to be present, he gave his son what no fortune ever could. A future built on trust, warmth, and a happiness that was no longer fragile.